Welcome back to our Model Context Protocol series. In this, I'm going to talk about how we can build a simple client using Python. So in the previous one, we have seen how we build the server component. Now we'll build the client component. So a little bit of a recap. If you haven't seen the previous video, I'm going to show you that very quickly, and you can go further in depth to watch the full video to understand a bit more in detail. All right, so let's go into the code which we have written earlier for the first one, and we have written this server.py. About a few lines here, but just to mention that it is hosting a server which is having a tool to add two numbers and a resource to greet someone. So if someone is entering a name, you basically say hello to the name. So those are the two things we have in this server as a component. That's a standard MCP protocol which you have built. So let's run that using MCP run or dev. And to be able to run this MCP command, you need to install pip MCP in close bracket CLI. Uh, just for the recap, so what you basically need is that pip install MCP CLI. If you do that, which you have already done it, it will go ahead and run the command which I'm going to type now. So I'll say MCP dev. You can do also dev or server, either way it's fine. And then I say server dev or run, and then server.py. And if I run that, it's going to create a token for me, which will allow me to connect to the inspector, and the inspector would be opening it. This comes part of the SDK. Okay, so you can see that I'm pointing to SDIO, and then I'm running the MCP run server.py. If I click on connect, it's gonna go ahead and show me the list of tools here, and I can see that the add command method is showing, which adds two integers. I can test it here, do all those stuff. So that's what the server component was, which was being discussed in the previous topic. Now what I'm going to do is that we're going to use the same server code, build a client component. Now to start building the client component, I need first few import statements. So I say from MCP, and I need few things, right? I'll say import client session. One is that this one, and then I need, because I'm running that in stdio, so I need the parameters for stdio because I'm gonna run that. So if you recall the inspector, I'm running the transport type as stdio, and I'm running this command. So I'm gonna programmatically build this up from this code, right? So stdio parameter is what I'm gonna use, and then I say types, and after that I need one more import. So I'll say mcp.client.stdio, and then I say import stdio client. Okay, that's all. Now I need to initialize the client session, so I'll say server params. Now this is where I'm going to use the stdio parameter class and initialize that with the command. So exactly same mcp run server.py. Okay, so I'll say args equals, and it's an array. So I'll say run, and then next one will be the file name server.py. I'm using Python file name. So that's done. And then the last one I need, if I have any environment variables. So I'll say env equals none. So there is no environment variable. So that's the second important thing, that just to recap quickly, you see here in the inspector, if you notice the inspector thing, you have got this stdio, the parameter is command, is MCP, argument is run server.py. I don't have environment variable, so you can see some of them, but that's not required for this. So you basically can set the environment variable if you have any, right? So that's where my second thing is done. Now, because I'm running a server which I don't have control and not part of this code, and maybe something else, right? Somewhere else. So how do you make sure that it is kind of properly handled? So we will use a bit of async programming in Python. So we'll say async, that's a keyword. And then I'll define a function. So I'll say a function and give it a run. So you can give any name. I'm giving run. Now if I say async await with stdio client. So I'll just give a name, the stdio client server params, the params you have declared earlier as read write. Okay, that's fine. Now if I am done with that, I come to the next line. I will say that async with client session, and then I say read write. Okay, so if I say read write in the client session, I say as session, and then I say await session.initialize. That's a variable, and I call the initialize method to initialize that. So this will ensure that my server is going to get initialized on its own time, and then I will keep waiting till it is happening. So it's a bit of asynchronous way of doing it. Now, what I can do over here, I'll come back later. So I'll say I put a mark over here. But once you finish that off, like you say that I need you go back here and then say make the little Python thing. I'll say name. So if I'm calling this, it will be basically calling as a main. So it's basically main underscore underscore, and then I import here. I'm gonna import. Sorry, I need to put a double equal sign. I need to import async IO, and then using the async IO, I need to run this run command. Basically, it's a bit confusing because I gave the same name, but you're going to give like my run2, something like that as the asynchronous function name. But I'm basically invoking this one, okay, from here. Now here I come back here. Let's say I list out the tools I have over here. So if I or list out the resources I have here. So if I may have to list out the resources, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say resources equals to await dot await session dot list resources. So you can see that I've got tools, resources, etc., which I can list. And now I can run a for loop to print the resources. So I say in resources, just like a simple for loop, and print whatever it is coming here, right? I also need to identify, let's say, resource, and then space. I put that here as resource. So it comes here as kind of like list of resources which I feel is available in my thing, and I want to do it programmatically. Now let me stop here, and to run this test this client, because I am already programmatically controlling the server, I can actually go ahead and run this as a Python code. So if I say Python run, and then I say client.py, and it is gonna run, not sir, I don't need run, it's a simple Python file. So you can see that it is going to list the resources. It's a request I'm making, and it's giving me the list of resources. Now, if I change these resources into something like tools, if I say list tools, uh, I say tools so that it's less confusing. And I run this, it's gonna go ahead and show me the tool like I have got add, which adds two integers. These are all written in the server, by the way. So it comes from here, okay? So you can see that it is input schema is A and B and so on and so forth. So you can actually invoke also some function from this client. So if you want to, let's say, invoke this tool like the add one, so what you can do, you come over here and then I say that result. Let's print the result. So if I say result equals to await session dot call tool. So this is how you invoke a function. And I want to call this add method. And because this add method has got two arguments, I have to say arguments. And in the argument thing, I provide a JSON input as A. I know the parameter name is A. So that's what you need to know from documentation. And then you say that I have got a B, and let's say the B is 7, okay, or 8, whatever that may be. And then you print the output as the result, and then you say result dot content. Okay, it will print that out. Now, while it is printing that out, let me not print this print thing, okay, and hide these two lines. I am going to run this in a clean slate, and I run this Python client, and you can see that by adding 1 and 8, the output is 9. That's the output I'm going to get if I do this add method, which is right? So 1 plus 8 is 9. So this is how we build the client component, right? You can do all of things. Because I have got, let's say, in the server, right now I've got also a resource. I can even call this, okay? So if you, let's say, want to call this resource, let me try calling this resource in my client. If I go over here, now I put another line to call the resource. I gave the thing as content because it is some message. So I'll say my type equals to await session. Sorry, that's session dot read resources. And then I have got, let me pick up the resource name. Yes, I have say greeting name. This is what the resource looks like. So let me go back to my client code and I call this resource. And here probably I'm gonna say this will it work, and then I need to somewhere print it, right? Hopefully this should work. Okay, let me try running this. Let me see if there is anything I missed anything. So let me try printing a hello thing, reading. Okay. If I can just do that, and then if I run this, is somehow not printing. So it's probably I need a web sort of thing. So I'm not sure about this, but this is calling, getting called, right? I'm not getting error, so it's properly calling, reading the resource, right, by calling this greeting with the name I'm providing. So that's all fine, I think, at this point in time in this context. Now you notice here a couple of things when you build the client you need to be aware of. Number one, these are all async calls. So you have to use these two keywords, async and await, to make sure that the async call is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then you need this library called async IO to call the method, right? So you can go a bit deeper into Python documentation to understand how this async call really works. So hope this helps, and hope you will be able to figure out a little bit more additional things, because I have just covered only two, but there are quite a few. You can test it out and you just follow the same structure. You'll be able to do that. In the next video, what I'm going to talk about is that how you can incorporate LLM into your client. So here we are doing all static stuff, right? Not so interesting. But MCP is all about like building intelligent AI system, an application with AI. So LLM will be key component. We'll see how we can do that. Thank you very much. Have a great day.